Hi, I just wanted to actually put a sort of speak to you a little bit about my IVF experience. I'm over 40. I'm 43 years old. There are a lot of us that are over 40 now out trying the IVF procedure. There, there are quite a few young moms out there on YouTube that are actually going through the process step by step, and they are doing real good as far as the mechanics are concerned. Myself, I'm a nurse and I'm an older mom, and I kind of wanted to give you some of the background perspective as far as some things that they just really don't you don't anticipate, and you aren't told about until the situation presents itself. So anyway, here goes. Why am I doing IVF? Um, at this point, I'm over 43. The clock is ticking, and frankly, we were just having difficulty having another child. Cost. IVF is very expensive. And if you're lucky enough, like us, to have an employer that does cover IVF, it does cover a great deal of it. However, it doesn't cover it all. So, from that aspect and that perspective, I would say that you have to have some type of game plan as far as and get creative as far as meeting the cost of like deductibles and medications and the like. Insurance does cover a great deal. Here in Ohio, average cost for IVF procedures is around $13,000. For us, the whole procedure is not, with insurance, it's kind of knocked down to right around about 2,000, including medications and such. So as you can see, there still is a nice little chunk of money that you have to come up with. So you have to get kind of creative. Whether you have to have a massive garage sale, or whether you have to work some extra hours, or whether you have to sell some things, or whatever you have to do. You kind of have to get creative with coming up with that amount of money. Um, the stress, the stress issue. You will hear along the lines, if you're going through IVF, they're talking about stress and trying to keep it down. And I thought to myself, what was some of the areas that will have stress, in going through this procedure? Well, number one, just finding out what all is involved is enough to kind of put you in a state of panic. Um, IVF, the scheduling of IVF is very reactive. And when I say reactive, I mean you don't know when you're going to have the next appointment. You kind of know somewhat about when, but not exactly when, because it's very dependent upon what's going on with your body in response to the drugs and things, for the IVF. So, from that aspect, makes it a little hard to schedule like time off from a job, so to speak, and the like. So, what I've heard other moms do, especially when it gets into the real meat of the IVF procedure, they will take 2 to 3 weeks off if they can possibly do so, just to kind of eliminate that aspect of the stress. Um, and then of course there's always that infamous 2 week wait. At this point where we are now in this is our very first IVF procedure. We have already taken all of our injections. We have gone through our follicle extraction, or our embryo retrieval. We will be going in 2 days to have our blastocyst um, put back in, implanted. And that will be a day 5 blastocyst. So that's where we are in our procedure. Overall, they've talked about just signs and symptoms that you might experience in response to all the injections. Whether it's the severe mood swings, the constipation, the bloating is crazy. It's really crazy. Um, I didn't have so much problems myself personally, except for headaches. I noticed there was quite a bit of headaches that kind of just, it was incessant. Tylenol, you take the Tylenol, but that's just something that kind of came along with the injectables. Um, the bloating was a big problem. Didn't have so much problems with all the mood swings. I don't think, I don't know, honey, did I have problems with the mood swings?
Not really. I didn't really. notice any difference.
No. Okay, so there you have it. So I guess I wasn't too much of a monster there. As far as uh, any other complications or signs and symptoms, I don't think I had them. So in the injections, now I did say I'm a nurse, so I do give injections quite a bit on my own. However, that doesn't mean I'm used to taking them. So initially, that part was a little difficult at first. And as we went along, it got a little bit easier and a little bit easier. So, it can be done. Um, Looking forward, am I a little nervous as far as the implantation? Oh, yeah. Because then there's also the stressor of wondering, am I going to have enough embryos to implant? Yeah, or enough blastocysts to implant? Am I going to have some left over? If so, then there is another cost to be incurred. Um, it costs to cryopreserve or freeze your blastocyst if by chance you have more than what is needed at the time. And the stressor part about that is you won't know until the day that you go to have your blastocyst put in. At least in my case, you wouldn't know until you get there that whether you do have too many or whether you have just enough to deal with it. So it's best to be prepared. Just, kind of go with your fee and just be prepared. That's pretty much all I have at this point. But I wanted to this is kind of my intro. I am really trusting and believing that this is going to work. I have from the beginning. And apparently my response to the injectables was much more successful than what my doctor anticipated. Fertilization, we got 6 embryos and 6 out of 6 fertilized. At last I talked to them, I think it was day 2 after they retrieved the embryos. 5 of the 6 had actually started dividing. The last one, the 6th one had not started dividing yet, but they hadn't looked since that morning. So, and here we are this is Saturday night, our day 4, 3, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, today's Saturday. This is day 4. 3, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Anyway, this is Saturday night. We're going into Sunday. Monday is our day to put them back. So, I have not heard yet, as it's a weekend, so I have not heard yet what's developed as far as that last embryo. So, you never know. So we'll see on Monday. After that, hopefully, we'll be talking back with you when we have a positive HCG test. And after that, look forward to the diary, because it always helps. I see some of the younger moms going through their pregnancy diaries, but there's some very real issues that us mature mothers go through. So kind of wanted to share that with you. But that's all I've got for now, so toodaloo.